I pulled the curtain back. The parking lot was empty. 5 cars, a flickering motel sign, heavy rain, nothing unusual. Then I turned toward the second window. My stomach dropped. It showed another motel. The same motel, same parking lot, same neon sign, except every room was lit. People were walking outside, and someone was standing inside room 8, looking directly at me. This is Tales of the Dark. A viewer recently shared this experience and asked to remain anonymous. Some names and small details have been changed for privacy. Everything else has been told exactly as they remembered it. I travel for work. Most weeks I'm somewhere different, small towns, remote highways, places where the GPS loses signal more often than it works. After a while, every roadside motel starts looking the same: cheap rooms, old carpets, buzzing neon signs, owners who don't ask questions. I never stayed anywhere longer than one night, until I found Black Pine Motel. It was close to midnight. Rain hammered the windshield. I'd already driven 6 hours through the forest. The next town was still another hour away. I was exhausted. Then I saw the sign. Black Pine Motel vacancy. The parking lot held only a handful of vehicles. An old pickup truck, a delivery van, 3 sedans, nothing unusual. I parked. The office lights were still on. Inside sat an elderly man reading a newspaper. He looked up before I spoke. "You'll want room 8. I smiled. "I haven't asked for a room yet." "You don't need to." He reached behind the desk, picked up a brass key, large, heavy, a faded wooden tag, number 8. I laughed. "Is that your best room?" His smile disappeared. "It's the last one." He slid a registration card across the desk. I filled in my name, address, phone number when I finished. He looked at the paper, then at me. "Whatever happens, leave before sunrise." I chuckled. "Is that supposed to make me curious?" "No, it's supposed to keep you alive." I waited for him to smile. He didn't. I took the key anyway. The rain had become even heavier. Room 8 sat at the far end of the building, closest to the forest, farthest from the office. The hallway lights buzzed softly. Everything smelled faintly of old wood and fresh paint. The room itself looked surprisingly clean. Queen-sized bed, desk, television, small bathroom, nothing strange. Until I noticed the windows. Most motel rooms have one. This room had 2. The first overlooked the parking lot, exactly where it should. The second sat on the opposite wall, covered by thick curtains that made no sense when I'd walked to the room. The opposite wall had backed directly against the forest. There wasn't enough space for another window. I told myself it probably faced a narrow courtyard, or maybe another wing of the building. Still, something felt wrong. I unpacked my camera, set it on the desk. Changed into dry clothes. The rain continued falling. I walked over to the first window, outside. The parking lot hadn't changed. The motel sign flickered. A truck pulled in. The driver hurried into room 3. Normal, completely normal. Then I pulled back the curtain covering the second window. It overlooked another motel, not a reflection, not glass, another building, perfectly clear, identical to this one, same office, same parking lot, same room numbers, same neon sign, everything matched except that motel looked busy. Nearly every room was occupied. People laughed outside, children ran between parked cars. Someone carried luggage toward the office. It looked alive. My motel was almost empty. I pressed my hand against the glass. Cold, solid, real. I checked outside my room. Rain soaked me instantly. The second window wasn't visible, only a blank exterior wall. I walked around the building. Nothing, no courtyard, no second building, just dense forest. When I stepped back inside, the second window remained exactly where it had been, showing the impossible motel. I grabbed my phone. Still no signal. I took several photographs. The screen clearly captured the second motel. Good, at least I wasn't imagining it. Then someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. I opened the door. No one. The hallway was empty. As I closed it, I heard another knock. This time, behind me from the second window. I turned slowly. A man stood inside the other room 8. He looked about my age, dark jacket, wet hair. He was staring directly at me. Then he knocked on his window. 3 slow knocks. Exactly the same pattern. I stepped closer, he copied me, I raised my hand, he did too, almost perfectly, like a reflection but not quite. His movements lagged by a second, then he smiled, I didn't. He lifted one finger, pointed toward my motel door. I heard footsteps outside. Real footsteps, running. Someone pounded on my door hard. Open up. It was the motel owner. I unlocked it immediately. He stepped inside, closed the curtains over the second window without even looking. What did you see? I hesitated. A motel, he nodded. Anyone? A man. His shoulders slumped. I was afraid of that. What is that window? He ignored the question instead. He asked another, did he notice you? Yes. The old man closed his eyes. Then don't look through that window again. Why? Because now he knows where you are. I waited. He said nothing else. I think you should explain. I can't. You can. I won't. He walked to the door before leaving. He turned back. If anyone knocks after midnight, don't answer. What if it's you? It won't be. He walked away. I locked every lock on the door, checked the bathroom, checked under the bed. Nothing. The room was silent except for the rain. Around 12:40. Curiosity won. I opened the curtain again. The other motel was still there. The man in the other room 8 was gone. Instead, the room looked exactly like mine. Same chair, same suitcase, same bedspread. My camera sat on the desk. I froze. My camera was still beside me. Then, the camera in the other room moved slowly, as if someone had picked it up, but no one was there. A moment later, I heard something slide across my own desk. I turned. My camera had moved. It was now facing the second window. I hadn't touched it, neither had anyone else. Then the impossible happened on the camera's screen. A live recording began playing by itself. The video showed room 8, not mine, the other one. Someone was standing just outside the frame, breathing, watching. Then a voice whispered, "Don't let him open the door." At that exact moment, 3 slow knocks echoed through my room, not from the hallway, from inside the bathroom. The knocking stopped. The room fell silent. I stood frozen. The bathroom door was still closed. My heartbeat was so loud I could barely hear the rain outside. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Old plumbing, the pipes expanding, anything. I slowly picked up the desk lamp. It was the closest thing I had to a weapon. I reached for the bathroom doorknob. Turned it, the door opened. Nothing. The light flickered, the sink, the shower, the toilet. Everything looked exactly as it had before. I let out a breath, then I noticed something. The bathroom mirror was fogged over. That shouldn't have been possible. I hadn't taken a shower. The room was cold. Someone had written 4 words across the glass. "He's not you." I stepped closer. The letters slowly began to disappear as the fog faded. My reflection didn't. It remained perfectly still. I blinked. My reflection smiled. I didn't. The bathroom light went out. I stumbled backward. When it came back on, the mirror looked normal again. No writing, no smile, nothing. I left the bathroom, locked the door behind me. I wasn't going back in there. The second window caught my attention again. The curtains were moving. Not because of the wind. The window was closed. Something behind the curtain had brushed against the fabric. I pulled it open. The other motel was still there, but now every room was dark except room 8. The man was back, standing inches from his window. His face was clearer this time. He looked exactly like me, not similar, exactly. Same haircut, same beard, same jacket, even the small scar above my eyebrow. He slowly raised one hand, holding a brass motel key, number 8. Then he pointed behind me. A chill ran through my body. I turned. The room door was open. I knew I had locked it. The hallway beyond was empty. I rushed over. Every lock was still engaged. The chain was still in place. The door should never have opened. I shut it again, double-checked every lock when I turned back. The second motel was gone. Only darkness remained outside the impossible window. Then, a flashlight beam swept across the forest. Someone was walking outside. Impossible. That side of the room faced a solid wall. I watched carefully. Another flashlight appeared, then another. 3 people were searching the woods. One of them stopped. He looked directly toward my window, raised his radio. I couldn't hear what he said, but another person pointed at my room. They had found something. A few seconds later, the flashlight beams disappeared. The forest was empty again. A loud knock came from the hallway. This time it was different, fast, panicked. "Please," a young man's voice. "Open the door, I know you're in there. They're coming." I stayed silent. "Please," I stayed too long. "I don't want to go back," his voice cracked. Then, the motel owner shouted from somewhere farther down the hallway, "Don't answer." The young man began pounding harder. "You don't understand, if you don't help me." The voice stopped, not faded, stopped. Instantly, complete silence. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, not a single person. At exactly 3:00 a.m., the television switched on by itself. Black and white static filled the screen. Then the picture cleared, a security camera, the motel parking lot. Only. It wasn't my parking lot, it was the other motel. Guests walked between cars, children played outside, everything looked peaceful. Then the camera changed. Room 8. A timestamp appeared. 3:01 a.m. The door opened. Someone walked out. Me. I watched myself cross the parking lot. "Speak to the motel owner. Get into my car. Drive away." The screen went black. A new message appeared. "Checkout complete." My blood ran cold. The room lights flickered. The impossible window returned. The other version of me was gone. Instead, his room was empty, the bed unmade. The door standing open. A notebook lay on the desk. One page had been torn out. Another page was visible. The writing was large enough to read. "If you can see this, you still have time. Leave before sunrise." I grabbed my own notebook, pressed it against the glass, wrote one question, "Who are you?" A few seconds later, words appeared inside the other room, not by magic. A pen moved on its own, as if someone invisible were writing. "I'm you, tomorrow." I stared at the page. No, that wasn't possible. I wrote another question. "What happens at sunrise?" The answer came almost immediately. "We switch." I dropped the notebook. A loud crash echoed outside. Headlights filled the room. Another car had arrived. A woman climbed out. She hurried into the office. Moments later, she walked toward room 8. No, toward the other room 8. I watched the motel owner hand her the same brass key. "Number 8. He said the same words. "Leave before sunrise." She smiled, just as I had. She laughed, just as I had. She disappeared inside. The room lights came on. She noticed the second window almost immediately. Our eyes met. She looked terrified. I rushed to the glass, shaking my head, trying to warn her. She couldn't hear me. She stepped closer, raised her hand, touched the window just as I had hours earlier. Behind her, a figure slowly emerged from the bathroom. It looked exactly like her. Neither of them noticed. I started pounding on the glass. She looked confused, then she turned around. The figure smiled. The lights went out when they returned. The room was empty, completely empty. A faint orange glow appeared beyond the curtains. Sunrise. The first rays of light reached the parking lot. The impossible motel began to fade, not vanish all at once. It dissolved slowly into the forest, room by room, window by window, until only trees remained. Someone knocked gently on my door. 3 slow knocks. The motel owner. "You can leave now." I packed everything without speaking as I handed him the room key. I finally asked, "What is that place?" He looked toward room 8, then quietly replied, "It isn't another motel. It's tomorrow's." I frowned. "What does that mean?" He sighed. "I stopped trying to understand years ago. How many people don't leave before sunrise?" He looked at the empty parking lot. "Enough that I keep room 8 open." I drove away. The forest looked ordinary again. The rain had stopped. 2 days later, I developed the photographs from my camera. Every picture of the second window was gone, except one. The final image showed only the forest, no motel, no window, but standing between the trees. It was the motel owner watching me. The problem was, the photograph had been taken after I'd already left. I never returned to Black Pine Motel. I tried finding it again. The highway was there, the forest was there, but the motel wasn't. Locals told me there had never been one on that road. Last week, while staying at a business hotel nearly 600 miles away, the receptionist smiled as she handed me my room key, room 214. I thanked her and walked upstairs. When I unlocked the door, I froze. The room had 2 windows. One overlooked the parking lot. The other had thick curtains already closed. I left without ever opening them. That was the end of this story. If you've ever experienced something you still can't explain, or have a strange story of your own, send it to Tales of the Dark. Your story could become the next nightmare featured on this channel. If you are new here, subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.